Have you ever paused to consider the weight of what it means to be set apart by God? To feel a stirring in your soul that beckons you toward a higher destiny, even when you don't fully grasp why this call has landed upon you? Throughout history, people from countless backgrounds and spiritual traditions have wrestled with the notion of divine selection. They've asked whether God's choosing is predetermined from the moment we take our first breath, or if it unfolds gradually as our life experiences accumulate. This question has enthralled mystics, theologians, and ordinary people alike for centuries, for it not only touches on our personal sense of purpose, but also underscores the workings of the spiritual realm in which we live and breathe. Some receive this calling as a whisper so gentle they're not even sure it's real. Others wake up one morning with an inner clarity that shakes them to their core, impossible to overlook. No matter how it arrives, the invitation to walk a path unique to your spirit can feel both electrifying and intimidating. You may wonder whether you are worthy of such a sacred role, or whether you can measure up to the grand visions that fill your mind. Yet if you look closer, you'll discover that being chosen by God has little to do with surpassing others in worldly accolades or reaching some unattainable state of perfection. Instead, it hinges on an openness, on your willingness to align your heart, your actions, and your very being with a higher plan. Meister Eckhart, a Christian mystic, famously noted, "The eye with which I see God is the same eye with which God sees me," hinting at a profound unity between the divine and the human soul. This truth whispers that each one of us carries a personal bond with God, a relationship intimately woven into our very essence, awaiting the moment we choose to nurture that connection. When you embrace this notion, it becomes clear that God's selection isn't random favoritism, nor a nod to extraordinary talent in the conventional sense. It's not about who is the smartest or the most charismatic. Instead, it's more about your inner alignment with the sacred patterns God has set in place for humanity. When you begin to sense this alignment, life starts to resemble a path strewn with signs, some subtle, some stunning, that guide you toward deeper awareness of why you were stirred to awaken in the first place. Maybe you notice remarkable synchronicities that stack up to defy the idea of mere coincidence, such as meeting the right people exactly when you need them, or stumbling upon the perfect resource the moment you're ready to receive it. Over time, these patterns form a silent language, God's delicate reminders to keep your eyes open and your heart receptive. Initially, the call of God might arrive as a slight but persistent nudge. It often surfaces during life's monumental moments, like a beautiful triumph that leaves you questioning why you still feel an unfilled space inside, or it might erupt amid turmoil, when heartbreak or adversity prompts you to seek out a comfort and truth more lasting than anything the material world offers. This longing can manifest in countless forms. Perhaps you're an artist, suddenly finding a new sense of awe in your creative process, or a parent who realizes that raising children goes well beyond meeting basic needs and touches upon guiding their spiritual formation. Some awaken to a desire to explore religious teachings, philosophy, or cosmic mysteries, compelled by an insatiable thirst for meaning. These flashes of interest might feel disconnected at first, like bits of a larger puzzle. But keep paying attention, and you'll begin to see a certain order, a design that points you to a sacred path unfolding beneath your everyday reality. Of course, fully responding to God's call requires courage. Often you may be asked to step away from the usual scripts of your life. You might have to challenge family expectations, societal norms, or even your own insecurities about whether you're deserving of a higher purpose. Yet for those who can't shake the feeling that God is summoning them, the real journey begins as soon as they say yes. The gentle whisper of the Spirit, barely audible at first, soon grows into a steady melody that seems to play in the background of everything you do. And in that readiness to heed this call, you may witness an extraordinary thing. As you take one step in faith, circumstances often align, mentors appear, and divine blessings ripple through your life in small but significant ways. Not that the road is free of struggle, far from it, but these moments of divine encouragement remind you to press on. A critical step on this road is to release the old baggage that weighs on your spirit. Over the years, our hearts can accumulate negativity in the form of past traumas, disappointments, and misunderstandings about who we are. It's like trying to sail a ship while an anchor is still wedged in the seabed. You long to move ahead, but something unseen keeps dragging you back. Freeing yourself from these internal chains isn't always a breezy process. It can be as jarring as turning your life inside out. You may confront childhood wounds, destructive habits, or harmful beliefs embedded in your thinking. These very challenges act as catalysts, shining a light on exactly where your soul needs healing. During this purification process, you become more vigilant about your own internal chatter, the unspoken stories you tell yourself. Are you operating from fear rather than trust in God? Is your pride overshadowing humility? While this awareness can be unsettling, it also throws open a door to genuine transformation. Each obstacle that surfaces becomes a chance to learn a more loving response. As you move through this process, you may notice bursts of inner clarity, a sense of peace, or a newly revealed insight that suggests something within you has shifted. The more you let go of these mental and emotional burdens, the more space you create for new gifts to surface, almost like discovering hidden wells of ability or intuition that had been buried under layers of doubt. One of the marvels of aligning with God's plan is that unexpected capacities may awaken within you. Perhaps you find that your compassion or healing presence can calm those in distress. Maybe you discover an uncanny ability to articulate spiritual truths that resonate in people's hearts. These gifts seldom explode onto the scene in a theatrical way. Rather, they tend to surface gradually, gently nudged into the light by your growing spiritual devotion. In the beginning, you might question whether these gifts are legitimate or just your imagination. Over time, with consistent effort and prayerful discernment, signs will emerge that confirm the authentic nature of what God has placed in you. But it isn't about collecting these gifts like trophies. The real test of spiritual gifting is how humbly and sincerely you use it to uplift others. God's chosen aren't meant to hoard blessings in isolation, but rather to become channels through which divine love flows into the world. This is where self-reflection and accountability are crucial. If you find that you're slipping into ego-driven desires, yearning for attention, approval, or recognition, take a step back and realign. The Holy Spirit doesn't pour these gifts into us for self-aggrandizement. They are meant to serve a larger tapestry of God's design. Even for those who sense that God has ordained a special path, the question of free will remains. After all, if our destinies are outlined from on high, are we merely puppets, or do we genuinely have a choice in shaping our spiritual trajectory? In truth, the path of the chosen one is a dance between divine orchestration and human freedom. Yes, you may sense an overarching destiny to heal, to teach, to lead, to create, but how you respond daily determines whether that destiny takes root. Your soul's blueprint can be realized or disregarded based on the choices you make at each step. Egos have a way of blurring our vision, luring us into complacency or fear that stalls our progress. Discernment becomes your compass, guiding you to choose in harmony with the divine calling. Sometimes discernment arrives through subtle intuitions, gut feelings, or even the occasional dream that seems too poignant to ignore. Other times, God may speak through the wise counsel of friends or mentors. It's up to you to filter these inputs and respond. Free will also means acknowledging your responsibility. Your every decision ripples out, supporting the blueprint of your soul or diverting energy into dead ends. Such awareness can be sobering. You're not a passive spectator in life. You co-create your journey with God. And as you exercise free will responsibly, you begin to notice a luminosity in your circumstances. Problems untangle more effortlessly, opportunities appear at the right moment, and meaningful connections blossom. By contrast, ignoring divine nudges often triggers struggle and stagnation. The sense of support from above might feel distant, not because God has truly abandoned you, but because your own fears and resistance have overshadowed divine presence. Learning to wield free will as a sacred tool fosters a reverent awareness that each choice matters. You are neither a puppet on cosmic strings, nor an isolated being forging your own path without guidance. Instead, you and God move in tandem, partners in a holy dance of creation, continually shaping your future and your growth. If there is one element that marks the life of a person chosen by God, it's the shift from self-focus to service. Answering the call isn't just about accumulating spiritual insights or refining your gifts for personal gain. Genuine fulfillment ignites when you pour what you have learned into serving others, your loved ones, the community, or even the broader world. This service doesn't emerge from moral obligation, but from an innate joy rooted in gratitude. Once you've tasted God's love, you naturally want to share it with others. Service becomes a living prayer, a continuous conversation with the divine that dissolves the invisible barriers separating you from your neighbors. In many instances, simply being present can be the highest act of service. You learn to listen without judgment, to hold space for those in pain, to carry a calm spirit into turbulent environments. As you grow more grounded in your connection to God, people around you can sense it, as if you carry a steady glow in a world often darkened by stress and fear. And here lies a paradox. The more you give from a sincere heart, the more replenished you become. It's a vivid reminder of how inexhaustible divine love truly is. Each act of kindness dislodges layers of selfishness, enabling deeper expressions of compassion. This, in turn, opens gateways to more profound spiritual experiences. Moreover, service is an invaluable testing ground for the gifts you're developing. If you sense a call to heal or mentor others, you'll grow most through actual, face-to-face engagement. Study and theory can expand your mind, but real growth flourishes in the context of genuine relationships and tangible needs. You may surprise yourself with the insights that flow through you in the midst of service, insights you couldn't have arrived at alone. Similarly, guiding others can reflect your own blind spots, offering you further opportunities for introspection. In this sacred exchange, everyone involved stands to gain a deeper grasp of God's grace. One of the most encouraging aspects of walking a God-ordained path is the appearance of what many call synchronicities. Events so serendipitous they seem orchestrated from above. Think of a moment when you were pondering a specific question, only to receive the exact answer through a friend's random comment. Or perhaps you felt an inexplicable urge to call someone, discovering they were in dire need of encouragement at that very moment. While some brush these off as coincidences, those who have experienced them multiple times recognize a divine thread weaving through their lives. Occasionally, synchronicity feels like a joyous rush, multiple pieces aligning so perfectly that you can't help but sense God's hand. Your creativity might spark, your conversations flow effortlessly, and your heart feels lifted by a current of grace. Other seasons can be more challenging, marked by closed doors or persistent confusion that seem to block your efforts at progress. Yet even these moments can be recognized as part of a larger rhythm. Sometimes, divine timing requires stillness or a recalibration of your intentions before a door can swing open. Accepting this flow with patience reduces frustration, teaching you that forward momentum isn't always external. Profound changes might be happening beneath the surface, preparing you for a step you cannot yet envision. In these cycles, it helps to remember that your journey is a partnership. God provides signs, opportunities, and intuition, yet you must do your part. By remaining attuned to divine nudges, you essentially open yourself to life's richness, noticing blessings that might otherwise go overlooked. This alertness deepens your trust, reminding you over and over that God's loving intelligence permeates creation, even in the smallest details. After witnessing these patterns time and again, doubt starts to fade, replaced by a humble faith that God is genuinely co-authoring your story. Some assume that the moment they accept God's calling, their life will unfold with effortless grace. While certain doors do open more easily, spiritual maturity is rarely a smooth, linear affair. It's an upward spiral in which you'll circle back to familiar issues, each time from a new vantage point. You might feel you've conquered jealousy, for instance, only to be tested later in a deeper or more nuanced way. Or you achieve a new level of compassion and then confront a situation that challenges your capacity to forgive. The repetition can be frustrating. Didn't you already learn this lesson? Yet each loop around the spiral brings a fresh layer of wisdom. When you do feel exasperated by recurring challenges, remember that you're not the same person you once were. Even if the situation looks identical on the surface, your soul's response might be calmer, more rooted in God's love. Repetitive lessons polish your character, strip away illusions, and expand your empathy. You become more adept at spotting hidden triggers in yourself and others, enabling you to love more completely. These cycles also teach profound humility, reminding you that the spiritual path is a lifelong, evolving process, not a quick fix or a one-time epiphany. Throughout these cycles, fellow seekers may appear. Some will journey with you for a moment, sharing an insight or supportive gesture just when you need it. Others become companions over months or years, offering mutual encouragement as you both evolve. These relationships can act like mirrors, reflecting back your progress, shining light on areas you've yet to address, or modeling traits you're striving to cultivate. In them, you glimpse the truth that while each person's relationship with God is unique, we all converge in our human longings to love, to heal, and to discover meaning. That said, there will also be episodes of solitude. You may find yourself feeling misunderstood or isolated, especially if people around you don't resonate with the shifts happening within you. In these times, leaning on your relationship with God becomes a lifeline. While it's natural to crave external affirmation, over-reliance on other people's approval can erode your trust in your God-given instincts. Periods of aloneness, as difficult as they may be, encourage a deeper reliance on the Holy Spirit. They remind you that God's presence is constant, eager to guide you, if you only lean in and listen. As you proceed, ask yourself what truly motivates your spiritual journey. Is it the thrill of mystical experiences or a genuine drive to embody divine love more fully? Superficial aims will eventually dissolve, leaving behind an authentic devotion that prioritizes love and service over personal accolades. This depth of humility and integrity often becomes the stabilizing force that keeps you anchored in what truly matters, preventing you from being swayed by the inevitable highs and lows of your path. While some traditions use the term enlightenment to describe the culmination of the spiritual quest, you might find it more comforting to think of it as an ongoing, deepening union with God. This union is not necessarily a thunderclap event, but often a gentle, persistent awareness that you are never truly cut off from the divine source that sustains all life. You might notice your everyday routines carried out with a renewed sense of significance. Mundane tasks glimmer with a hidden holiness when done in the consciousness that God is intimately near. This doesn't mean life will be free from pain or conflict. Hardships still arise, and your heart will still feel the sting of sorrow when faced with injustice or loss. Yet your vantage point shifts. You begin to see trials as part of a vast puzzle that God uses to shape your soul. Moments that once seemed random or purely negative can take on meaning as lessons, catalysts for empathy, or openings for greater surrender. Instead of feeling like a powerless victim of circumstance, you sense yourself a participant in a grand design, learning the steps of a dance that evolves with every beat of your heart. As you settle more firmly into God's embrace, your interactions with others also transform. Words flow with greater kindness, and your intentions become more transparent. People often notice an uplifting energy around those who walk closely with God, like a warm lantern on a cold night. Seemingly small gestures, such as speaking kindly to a stranger or showing patience to someone in frustration, resonate with a newfound spiritual gravity. It's as if every action, no matter how mundane, is lit from within by a stream of divine grace. Still, this unity is not a static achievement. It's an ever-expanding journey. Times of blissful communion can suddenly give way to periods of dryness or frustration, prompting you to refine your faith and continually deepen your surrender. The cyclical nature of these phases ensures that complacency doesn't take root. Each shift invites you to enlarge your capacity for empathy, to take one more step into the unexplored territory of your soul. If you remain open, the bond you share with God reveals itself as an infinite well, one you drink from again and again, each time discovering new depths of beauty and wisdom. Paradoxically, as you draw closer to God, you often become more sensitive to the pain and turmoil of the world around you. Headlines about suffering or personal encounters with people's tragedies may pierce your heart more keenly than before. Rather than standing apart in some lofty peace, you may find yourself moved to tears by global conflicts, ecological destruction, or the quiet desperation of a neighbor who has lost hope. This heightened sensitivity can be both a blessing because it fuels empathy and a burden, because it can lead to emotional overwhelm if not tempered with self-care. Here is where boundaries and self-compassion prove vital. While you are called to shine your light, you are not required or able to fix every problem by yourself. Accepting your human limitations is part of spiritual maturity. It allows you to act from love rather than guilt, offering genuine assistance where you are most equipped to do so. Retreating periodically to prayer, meditation, or simple solitude can replenish your spirit. Just as a candle must be protected from strong winds to keep burning, your inner fire requires occasional shelter to remain vibrant. Consider that even the most dedicated servant needs intervals of rest and renewal to function effectively. Balancing your calling with the recognition of your own needs prevents burnout and, in fact, sets an example for others who struggle to find the same equilibrium. In this process, you might also need to confront your own perfectionism or the subtle sense that chosen people should be infallible. Yet vulnerability and humility are essential aspects of authentic leadership in God's kingdom. Knowing when to seek help, be it emotional, spiritual, or practical, keeps you grounded. A single candle can only shed light for so long without rest or replenishment. By acknowledging your humanity, you actually cultivate deeper strength, becoming a channel through which God's boundless power can move more freely. Look around, and you'll see a world that yearns for the steadying presence of those who have said yes to God's invitation. The churn of division, hostility, and fear in modern society seems relentless. So many hearts are crying out for something real, something grounded in compassion and unity. This is where those chosen by God, who have done the inner work to cleanse their hearts and align with divine love, play a pivotal role. Titles and external labels matter less than the authenticity you carry. In essence, You serve as an emissary of God's peace in every corner of life, from the grocery store checkout line to the boardroom or the family dinner table. This influence is less about preaching doctrine than living it, demonstrating kindness when no one is watching, exercising patience in the face of provocation, or extending forgiveness where it is least expected. Far from demanding that everyone conform to your beliefs, you simply radiate a quiet confidence grounded in something eternal. Over time, this authenticity has a ripple effect. People begin to notice that your presence feels calming, your words supportive rather than judgmental, and your actions inspired by a higher principle rather than self-interest. In observing this, they may glimpse the reality of God in their midst. Such transformation can happen at multiple levels. In some cases, entire communities shift when they see a chosen individual modeling cooperation and decency. Pockets of unity arise where there was division, and small acts of generosity spread quickly. That said, even if your life sphere seems small, your influence can still be profound. A single heartfelt conversation with a neighbor, a supportive note left for a troubled colleague, or a gentle challenge to a loved one's destructive behavior can plant seeds that bloom in mysterious and far-reaching ways. You might never see the full impact of your choices, but God's plan extends well beyond our limited eyesight. In walking this path, remain open to the possibility that God's plan for you could far exceed your own expectations. Divine guidance may prompt you to pivot careers, move to a new place, or invest in a ministry you never previously considered. You may also discover that your current environment becomes the perfect training ground for spiritual growth once you shift your perspective. Staying adaptable and humble allows you to learn from surprising teachers, a child brimming with wonder, an elderly person sharing timeless wisdom, or even someone who rubs you the wrong way, exposing unhealed parts of your psyche. Yes, you will encounter people and viewpoints that clash with yours, but hold space for the likelihood that behind those differences lie fears, pains, and yearnings, not so different from your own. Recognizing our shared humanity doesn't mean forfeiting your convictions. It means exercising empathy before judgment. Often, genuine bonding happens in that middle ground where two souls, each carrying hidden scars, recognize that love, not agreement, is the ultimate glue that unites us. This realization can spark a new level of service, one that transcends cultural or ideological barriers and speaks directly to the universal language of compassion. Ultimately, keeping a spirit of curiosity ensures you remain alive to the mystery of God's presence. If you fancy yourself a perpetual learner, you stay open to unexpected revelations that can appear in the most mundane experiences. Such openness cultivates resilience when life throws you a curve, be it a career upheaval or a sudden health challenge. You begin to see life not as a linear race to a fixed endpoint, but as a boundless expedition where each stage reveals new facets of your relationship with God. This sense of wonder wards off stagnation, fueling a creative approach to both prayer and action. Imagine for a moment if every person who sensed God's touch chose to nurture that seed wholeheartedly. The ripple effect could be astonishing. We might witness an upswing in empathy that crosses borders of nationality, culture, and religion. We might see novel types of leadership that focus on inclusion rather than division, on problem-solving rather than blame. And it wouldn't necessarily require grandiose measures or revolutionary declarations. Often, it's the unassuming gestures of kindness that stitch people together. A moment of genuine listening when someone feels unheard, a willingness to help a neighbor in crisis. These small acts can slowly but surely shift the collective atmosphere. What's most remarkable is how these personal awakenings interweave to create a communal tapestry of renewal. Every time a single individual chooses love over fear, that choice resonates, influencing friends, families, and colleagues. And as these choices accumulate, they can spark a chain reaction of hope, one gentle step at a time. None of us can solve the world's problems single-handedly, but we can carry our slice of the divine mission, trusting that God employs every act of service, no matter how modest, to weave a larger plan. In the end, you are invited to realize that your life is a meaningful thread in this grand narrative. If you dare to answer the call, whether that call manifests as an inner longing, a series of synchronicities, or a powerful confirmation in prayer, you contribute your unique color to the broader tapestry. And in living your part with sincerity, you embolden others to do the same. The synergy is beautiful. As more hearts turn toward God, more souls awaken, and more hands become willing instruments of grace. It's important to note that there is no neat final conclusion to the journey of being chosen by God. Rather than a finish line, there's an endless horizon inviting you to keep exploring. Maybe the surest truth is that this quest doesn't really end. Each day brings new lessons, new facets, arenas where God asks you to show up and shine. It's a continuous process of discovering both the majesty of the Creator and the depths of your own capacity to reflect divine glory. In these explorations, keep in mind that you're never alone. Even in the darkest trials, an unseen presence holds you with limitless compassion. You're in the company of fellow travelers, some you meet along the way, others who came before and left behind wisdom in sacred writings or personal legacies. And of course there's the Spirit of God, ever near, waiting for you to reach out in prayer or reflection. So when you face setbacks or doubt your ability to stay the course, remember that spiritual guidance is as close as a quiet breath or a tearful plea offered in faith. Make space for wonder. Gaze at a sunrise or the complexity of a blooming flower. Let these everyday miracles remind you that creation is brimming with divine fingerprints. Each detail is an invitation to rekindle awe, to sense the unspoken dialogue between God and your spirit. This inner state of receptivity is often the birthplace of true transformation. In open-hearted wonder, you become more pliable, ready to follow divine cues rather than stubbornly clinging to your preconceived plans. Trust, of course, is essential in a life directed by God. Even if you can't see 10 steps ahead, you can take the next step in faith, believing that the path will make itself known as you walk. This requires letting go of the illusion that you control every outcome. Instead, you develop a willingness to flow with a higher wisdom that always has your best interest at heart, even if God's plan sometimes runs counter to what your mind believes is best. In relinquishing the need for absolute certainty, you create room for grace to emerge in unexpected forms. Doubt may still surface, but it can become a stepping stone to deeper faith rather than an obstacle. When you allow yourself to question, you also create space for God to answer in surprising ways. Over time, you learn to discern the tone of divine guidance, a gentle alignment of circumstances, a persistent nudge in your heart, or an intuitive clarity that resonates beyond intellectual reasoning. And as you grow more confident in recognizing God's hand, your fear of the unknown diminishes. You realize that stepping into the unknown with God is far safer than standing still in the familiar without divine guidance. For many, the ultimate fruit of walking as one chosen by God is the legacy they leave for future generations. It's not about statues or awards, but about the imprint of faith, courage, and love they embed in the lives of those around them. Whether you're called to preach to crowds, nurture children in a caring home, or craft art that awakens dormant hearts, the essence of your contribution will be measured by the seeds of God's love you plant. You might never see these seeds flourish in your lifetime, but your faith in sowing them is part of honoring the bigger picture. Think of parents who model godly values for their children, shaping them into compassionate adults who in turn bless their own communities. Consider teachers whose quiet mentorship lights a spark in students, prompting them to chase their divine calling. Or reflect on small acts of mercy, visiting the sick, providing for the needy, that can radically shift someone's perspective on life. Each good deed, magnified by the Holy Spirit, can reverberate well beyond its initial context, forming a chain of blessings that outlasts us all. Ultimately, the question, why did God choose you to become the chosen one, points back to a simple yet profound response. Because God loves you and knows your unique potential. It doesn't hinge on how perfect you are or how many accolades you've amassed. Divine love seeks channels through which it can flow, and your heart, if open, becomes such a vessel. God's selection reflects both your willingness to answer and the larger tapestry of humanity's collective evolution. You are chosen not for self-glory, but to demonstrate the tangible reality of divine goodness in a world hungry for hope. This realization often spurs a shift in how you define success. No longer confined to material measures, salary, status, social clout, success becomes more about how faithfully you respond to God's promptings. It's about the quality of your relationships, the authenticity of your service, and the peace you cultivate in your interior life. That newfound perspective might contradict mainstream cultural ideals, yet it holds a liberating truth. Living in alignment with God can be the richest, most fulfilling life imaginable. So here you stand, with an invitation extended, a road untraveled, and a spark of divine potential kindling in your soul. You might not know exactly where it will lead or how it will look 5 years from now. But you do know that something within you has been awakened, and it refuses to be silenced. With each step you take, you cooperate with God's creative power. And as you move forward, you'll inevitably find kindred spirits, fellow travelers who can lighten your load, share your joys, and challenge you to grow stronger in faith and love. In the days and years ahead, let curiosity guide you. Let service shape you. Let humility keep you tethered to the one who chose you. Each dawn offers a fresh chance to say yes to this call, in small yet significant ways. Perhaps you'll pray for those in need, volunteer your time to a cause that stirs your heart, or engage in a random act of kindness. Over time, these seemingly minor choices accumulate, weaving a life that resonates with divine grace. And while you walk, remember that you're never walking alone. God's hand is there to steady you. Hidden angels may appear in countless forms, and the quiet prayers of others who've also heard the call provide an unseen chorus of support. Ultimately, it's worth lingering on the sacred mystery rather than seeking a tidy conclusion. If there is a final takeaway, it's that this journey has no ultimate endpoint, only new horizons beckoning you to step further into the unknown while trusting that God's guidance remains steadfast. You hold a spark of holy potential that grows brighter with every act of surrender, every decision to love, and every prayer whispered in earnest. Each day opens a doorway to draw nearer to God's heart. When you embrace that, you find that every tree, every kind word, every breath is imbued with a cosmic significance that ties your life to something infinitely grander than yourself. And so, carry on. Continue to cultivate those inner promptings, heed the signs God scatters along your path, and remember that you're part of a broader story whose author is love itself. In a world so often overshadowed by discord, your conscious choice to live your calling is a sacred gift, a bright strand in the immense tapestry God has been weaving since time began. Keep going, keep trusting, keep believing. For in doing so, you fulfill a role no one else can occupy, shining light into darkness, championing hope, and testifying to the wonder of what it means to be chosen by God.